I was paying for my husband's medical treatments from abroad, but when I surprised him on his birthday, I found my best friend pregnant with his baby. They expected me to keep supporting their new family. Just a few days ago, I had the surprise of a lifetime, and not the good kind. I walked into what I thought was my own home, only to find my husband, Jeff, and my childhood best friend, Grace, tangled up in an affair. To make matters worse, Grace is pregnant with his child. You can probably imagine the shock I felt, but the real kicker is that they both expected me to keep sending money from Europe to support their new little setup while they played house together. Let me give you a bit of background, because this situation is absolutely crazy. Jeff, my husband, was diagnosed with a rare form of cystic fibrosis when he was 24, about 2 years after we got married. Our insurance company was being a complete nightmare and refused to cover the experimental treatments he desperately needed, saying they were investigational and not medically necessary. We tried to appeal this decision repeatedly, but hit a brick wall every time. We even consulted lawyers, but they said our chances of winning a lawsuit were slim because the treatments weren't FDA approved yet. As you can imagine, the medical bills were a nightmare. We were paying around $4,000 a month just for the medication, not to mention all the specialist visits and tests every few weeks. We were burning through our savings and staring down the barrel of bankruptcy when I got a lifeline, a job offer from an international consulting firm. The catch? It was based in Munich, and I had to commit to at least 2 years, maybe more. The upside was the salary. It was nearly triple what I was making here, and it was the only way we could keep Jeff alive. After a long discussion, Jeff and I agreed I should take the job. I was sending home about 40% of my salary every month, which covered his medical expenses and kept him comfortable. The plan was to stay in Munich until we had saved enough to either get better insurance or wait until the treatments were covered here. Since Jeff couldn't work full-time due to his condition and needed help with daily tasks and appointments, Grace offered to move in and take care of everything while I was in Munich. Grace and I have been best friends since we were 8, and I trusted her completely. She had always been there for us, especially after Jeff's diagnosis. She even helped us research treatment options and drove Jeff to his appointments when I was putting in overtime to save money before heading to Europe. It seemed like the perfect arrangement. Jeff would have dependable care. Grace would have a place to live since she was between jobs and her lease was ending, and I could focus on my work, knowing Jeff was in good hands. Every day, we kept in touch through video calls. Jeff always seemed to be doing well, and Grace kept me updated on his appointments and medication schedule. I had planned a surprise for Jeff's upcoming birthday, hoping to come home early. I managed to get some time off work and booked a flight without telling them, wanting to keep it a surprise. But when I walked through the door using my key, I found them cuddled up on the couch watching a movie, and Grace was visibly pregnant. The first words out of Jeff's mouth were, "This isn't what it looks like," which was as ridiculous as it sounds. Grace started crying and confessed they had developed feelings for each other about 4 months ago, and she was 5 months pregnant with his child. Jeff jumped in, saying they wanted to tell me about their relationship, but were waiting until I came home for good. Their plan? That I would continue working in Munich and sending money while they figured out their new family dynamics. Grace even said that I should be grateful for her looking after Jeff while I was living it up in Europe, claiming it was natural for them to grow close given all the time they spent together. But the real nerve came when Jeff suggested that we shouldn't rush into divorce because it was convenient for him to stay on my health insurance. He reasoned that since Grace wasn't working and couldn't get coverage for his condition, we should remain married for financial reasons until they could sort out their future plans. That was the last straw. I told them both they were out of their minds if they thought I'd keep funding their affair or support their baby while they lived in my home with my money. Jeff got defensive, arguing that I was being unreasonable considering his medical condition and the costs involved. Grace backed him up, saying breaking up their family would essentially doom Jeff because they couldn't afford his medications without my financial aid. I walked out and am now staying in a hotel, trying to sort out what to do next. First step, I'm filing for divorce and fighting any attempt to get alimony. I'm also consulting a lawyer to see if I can recover any of the money I sent home over the past year and a half. What infuriates me most is feeling like they plotted this whole thing and tried to manipulate me into continuing to pay for their life while they started theirs together. Grace even suggested I should be happy for them because they found love during such a tough time. As if I'm supposed to celebrate their betrayal while I've been busting my ass in a foreign country to keep Jeff alive. Some people might say I should have seen this coming or that long-distance relationships don't work, but I genuinely trusted them both and believed we were all working towards the same goal. Wow, where do I even start? I never thought I'd be dealing with such a mess. My main focus was getting Jeff back on his feet so I could finally settle down at home for good. Little did I know, during my absence, they would exploit my kindness and financial backing to start a relationship behind my back, expecting me to keep the cash flow going even after they got caught. It's a lot to take in right now. I'm trying to wrap my head around everything and figure out how to protect myself legally and financially. Divorce is definitely on the cards, and I'm probably going to have to quit my job in Munich and head back to the U.S. to sort this out. It's a real punch to the gut, realizing that the two people I trusted the most could stab me in the back like this, and then act as if I'm the one being unreasonable for not wanting to bankroll their little love affair. Update 1. It's been a whirlwind week since I found out about Jeff and Grace's affair. I've moved out of the hotel and am crashing at my parents' place while I hunt for a divorce lawyer and plan my next steps. I've lined up meetings with 3 family law attorneys who specialize in cases like mine, divorces where medical expenses and spousal support get tangled up in the mix. From what I've gathered in my initial talks, I've got a promising chance of skipping any alimony payments to Jeff due to the adultery. And because I've got proof I was the one footing most of our household bills while he was busy with Grace, the lawyers also reckon I might be able to claw back some of the money I sent home last year and a half, especially the cash that went into our joint savings account and home improvement projects. I've kept meticulous records of all my transfers and documented how much I contributed to our joint expenses while I was working overseas. I've already started taking Jeff off my health insurance, which will kick in by the end of this month. My insurance company said I'm good to go as soon as the divorce papers are filed, since the split is due to adultery. Jeff has been blowing up my phone, but I've been ignoring his calls and blocked both him and Grace on social media. My parents have been a solid rock through this and are letting me stay with them as long as I need to get back on track. They've also offered to chip in on legal costs if it comes to that, though I've been saving while working in Munich, so I should manage. Surprisingly, things with my Munich job are turning out better than expected. When I explained the situation to my boss, she mentioned that the company was already looking to beef up their U.S. operations. So, they're allowing me to transfer to their Chicago branch. Even though I'll take a pay cut and lose some benefits, it means I don't have to jump into job hunting while handling the divorce hassle. In hindsight, I feel kind of lucky to have caught them when I did, because Grace's pregnancy would have eventually made their affair hard to hide. If I had stayed in Munich for a few more months, they could have spun a convenient tale and perhaps started hiding assets or making financial moves that would have been tougher for me to undo later on. It dawned on me that Jeff and Grace probably thought they had a bit of breathing room to figure out how to drop the bomb on me because I was supposed to be staying in Munich for another 6 months. But surprise, surprise, Guys, my early homecoming for Jeff's birthday threw a spanner in their works. They didn't have time to cook up their story or brace for my reaction. My parents have been helping me sift through all the financial documents and joint accounts to make sure I have everything needed for the divorce process. We even found out that Jeff had been using our joint credit card to buy goodies for Grace, like prenatal vitamins and maternity clothes, which will definitely bolster my case for proving he was splurging marital funds on his mistress. I'm filing for divorce this week and asking for temporary orders to block him from touching our joint accounts or making any significant financial moves while the divorce is underway. Haven't heard a peep from Grace since the confrontation, but my parents mentioned that her mom called yesterday, apologizing for her daughter's conduct. Apparently, Grace's folks are pretty appalled by her actions and have told her she's on her own financially through the pregnancy and with the baby. It's surreal to realize that just a couple of weeks ago, I thought I had a rock-solid marriage and a best friend helping me navigate a tough period. Instead, I'm now planning a divorce and cutting ties with someone who was in my life for over 2 decades. Still, I'm starting to feel hopeful about what lies ahead, knowing I'll be better off without people who betray my trust and exploit my generosity. Update 2. I went ahead and filed for divorce yesterday and officially quit my job in Munich. The last week and a half has been a blur of legal paperwork and big life decisions, but I'm feeling way more in control now that I've started taking action. My lawyer has filed the divorce petition along with requests for temporary orders to secure my assets while we're in legal limbo. We're asking the court to split all marital property evenly, but also to reimburse me for the money I shelled out on household expenses and Jeff's medical treatments while he was having an affair with Grace. The temporary orders are set up to stop Jeff from racking up new debt in my name or dipping into our joint accounts without my thumbs up. My lawyer mentioned this is standard in adultery-involved divorces to prevent the cheating spouse from burning through marital assets on their side piece or stashing money away before everything is split up. A couple of days ago, Jeff's parents knocked on my folks' door wanting to chat about the divorce. At first, they tried convincing me that Jeff and Grace's fling was just a rough patch caused by his health issues and me being away. His mom even suggested that if I moved back and worked things out, Jeff would come to his senses, ditch Grace, and everything would be just peachy. Once I made it clear that I wasn't interested in fixing things with someone who deceived me for months and expected me to bankroll his affair, Jeff's dad got real honest about their actual worries. I was really stressed out thinking about how Jeff would cover his medical bills without my salary and insurance. But then, Jeff's parents chimed in with their 2 cents, suggesting I hold off on divorcing Jeff right away. They thought maybe we could work out some temporary deal where I'd keep helping cover his medical expenses until he figured something else out. Jeff's mom even had the nerve to suggest Jeff should dump Grace, and Grace should end her pregnancy, so Jeff and I could try patching up our marriage. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I flat out told them that this was totally unacceptable, and that I wasn't going to give up my well-being, or keep letting myself be manipulated just because Jeff had health problems. Jeff's dad got super angry, accusing me of being selfish and saying it showed I never really cared about Jeff if I could leave when he supposedly needed me the most. I shot back that I'd spent the past year and a half working overseas and sending most of my pay back home to cover Jeff's treatment while he was off having a fling with someone else. I also mentioned that they never offered to help pay for his medical costs themselves. After that, Jeff's parents took off, but not before his mom said she hoped I'd rethink my decision, since they didn't know how Jeff would make it financially without my help. It was so obvious they didn't care about how hurt I was or how betrayed I felt. They were just worried about losing the financial stability my job brought to their son. On the flip side, Grace's family handled everything completely differently. Her parents reached out to me directly to say sorry for what their daughter did. They even told me they were cutting Grace off financially, including her college tuition and living expenses. Grace's mom admitted they were embarrassed by her actions and couldn't wrap their heads around how she could throw away a 20-year friendship for something like this. They also made it clear they wouldn't support the baby after it was born because of how the whole thing came about. Grace's dad said they'd raised her to have better values, and that they were really disappointed she decided to wreck a marriage and a friendship for a fling that might not even last. Now, both Jeff and Grace are really feeling the pinch financially. Without my income, Jeff can't keep up with his full treatment plan and had to switch to a cheaper, less effective medication. Grace is trying to find a job, but struggling because she's pregnant and doesn't have much recent work experience or skills. My lawyer advised me that Jeff might try to get spousal support in the divorce, but she's pretty sure we can fight it since he cheated. Plus, the fact that he was spending our joint money on Grace during their affair should help me out in dividing our assets. I'm about to start a new job in Chicago next week, and I found a little apartment nearby that I can afford comfortably on my own. It feels amazing to be focusing on my future rather than constantly worrying about other people's financial and medical issues. The toughest part of all this has been facing the reality that the Jeff I thought I was married to doesn't actually exist. The Jeff I believed in would never manipulate my love and concern for his health to fund his affair. And the Grace I thought was my best friend would never betray 2 decades of friendship for a relationship with my husband. But I'm finally seeing that it's actually better to find out their true colors now, rather than keep sacrificing my happiness for people who don't appreciate what I'm doing for them. I'm excited to build a new life where I'm not constantly stressed about helping people who don't value my support. Update 3. So Jeff went along with all the divorce terms and signed the papers a month ago. Now we just have to wait out the 60-day period that's required before the divorce is finalized. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't try to fight the property division or ask for spousal support. My lawyer thinks he probably realized he didn't have a strong legal leg to stand on given the circumstances. Jeff had been trying to meet up and discuss the divorce in person, but I refused since I didn't see any point in having a face-to-face with someone who'd been lying to me for so long. I told him through our lawyers that he could reach out about legal issues through his attorney, but that I wasn't keen on having any personal talks about our marriage or his thing with Grace. Then yesterday, Jeff showed up at my parents' house despite me making it clear I didn't want to see him. My folks weren't home, and I was chilling in the backyard reading when I heard someone calling my name from the front. I went around to check, and there's Jeff on the lawn, yelling he wants to talk to me. He started apologizing, saying he knew he screwed up, but that our marriage could still be salvaged if I was willing to work with him. Then he dropped a bomb that made me see just how out of touch with reality he was. He claimed that I was the reason he and Grace got close, since my absence forced them to lean on each other emotionally. Jeff argued that if I'd been a better wife and found a way to stay home and look after him instead of taking the Munich job, he wouldn't have developed feelings for Grace. So somehow I was partially to blame for their affair. That was it for me. I was furious and stormed outside to confront him. I told him I'd taken the job in Munich specifically to pay for his medical treatments and keep him alive, and blaming me for his infidelity was the most manipulative and ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. I reminded him that Grace was supposed to be my best friend, and both of them betrayed my trust while I was practically working myself to death to support them. Jeff kept trying to cut me off, justifying his actions by saying I didn't understand how hard it was for him to be sick and alone while I was away in. So, here's the lowdown on the whole Europe drama. My ex, Jeff, tried to pull this whole sympathy card on me, saying that Grace had been his rock, while I was thousands of miles away, and that their so-called bond just magically grew because they were spending so much time together. I called him out on his nonsense, saying tons of couples do the whole long-distance thing without sneaking around. I mean, seriously, he was just making excuses for acting all shady. And the cherry on top? He and Grace were planning to keep up their little secret romance while I was supposed to keep footing the bill for their lifestyle. It's not like they felt bad about what they did, they were just upset they got caught. Anyway, when Jeff started whining about how I was being all unreasonable and that I should cut him some slack because of his medical situation, I just lost it. I gave him a good slap and told him to get off my parents' property, pronto, and not to contact me unless it's about legal stuff. Jeff looked totally shocked that I actually slapped him, but he got into his car and drove off without another word. As soon as he left, I rang up my lawyer to fill her in and to make sure Jeff's little surprise visit wouldn't mess with the divorce process. My lawyer said that his stunt could actually work in my favor because it shows he's not respecting my boundaries or playing by the rules. My parents walked in about an hour later, and I spilled the whole story. Dad was bummed he missed it because he would have sent Jeff packing immediately. Mom was worried he might do a repeat performance. So we're setting up a security camera system and ready to call the cops if he tries anything. Now, about that slap, I know getting physical isn't usually the best move, but hearing him act like I was the one messing up our marriage was infuriating. He'd been leeching off my love and finances while cozying up to my best friend. And then he had the audacity to turn it all around on me. But the good news is the 60-day waiting period is coming to an end soon, so I'll be officially divorced and free from all ties to Jeff. I've got big plans to rebuild my life, and I can't wait to start fresh without any baggage. Update time. The minute that waiting period is up, I'll be divorced from Jeff. I've settled into my new Chicago life, and things are looking up despite the rocky road getting here. Just found out through some mutual friends that Jeff and Grace broke up a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, they couldn't hack it together without family bankrolling their lifestyle. And now Grace is pregnant and back living with her folks. Her parents are stepping up to help, even though they're not thrilled about the whole situation. Out of the blue, Jeff sent me this wild email blaming me for their baby ending up in a broken home. Can you believe he said if I'd been more chill about their relationship and figured out a money deal for his medical stuff, they could have been one big happy family? He even went on a rant about gender double standards, how it's unfair he's getting the short end of the stick while I'm facing zero consequences for giving him that slap. He tried to paint this picture of what would happen if roles were reversed, but I didn't even bother replying. Their relationship crumbling as soon as the cash dried up just proves they weren't really in it for love, more like convenience. As for me, I'm thriving in my Chicago job, making friends, and loving my newfound freedom from financial burdens that were never mine to bear. I'm excited to close this chapter of my life for good. For the first time in a long time, I'm living for myself and not pouring everything into people who didn't deserve it.